Right now in Europe, the afternoon heat is so severe that citizens are wandering into IKEA stores, bypassing the showrooms, and spending hours sleeping on the display beds just to survive the afternoon. Local administrations are scrambling with tactics that feel entirely backward. In Germany, highway asphalt is melting so fast that they've deployed winter salt trucks, normally used to melt snow, to continuously spray water over the roads to keep them from buckling. The situation has triggered a public health crisis. The government in Paris has strictly banned drinking alcohol in public parks to prevent widespread heat stroke, while residents break through barricades to turn historic fountains and dirty canals into makeshift swimming pools. This infrastructure was built for a stable, cool climate that has effectively vanished, leaving Europe's modern cities to buckle under conditions they weren't designed to survive. Heavy infrastructure is failing everywhere you look. Iron train tracks are buckling from thermal expansion, crippling rail networks. In France, rivers are running so hot that nuclear power plants are having to throttle down their electricity production because the water is no longer cold enough to safely cool the reactors. Compare this to regions that actually expect extreme heat. If you look at Jodhpur in Rajasthan, you see centuries of intentional, heat-reflective urban design. The deep blue paint coating the houses bounces the sun's radiation away, naturally regulating the indoor temperature. This animation shows exactly what is baking Europe right now. Meteorologists call it a heat dome. It's a massive high-pressure system that drifted up from Africa and Spain, trapping hot air over the continent and physically compressing it downward like a lid on a boiling pot. While the heat dome is the immediate weapon, Europe's fair-weather cities are completely defenseless against it. But the ultimate cause of this severe weather anomaly lies in their own historical actions. If you look at this timeline of human industry starting in the 1700s, you can see a foundational rule of climate science: cumulative emissions. Carbon dioxide doesn't just dissipate, it stays trapped in the atmosphere for centuries. And that science connects directly to Europe's history. During the Industrial Revolution, Europe taught the world to burn coal and run steam engines 24 hours a day. Here is the resulting data. Tracking records from 1751 to today proves that Europe alone is responsible for roughly 22 to 25% of all the historical carbon ever emitted globally. To put that into perspective, Europe's historical footprint vastly outweighs the historical totals of entire continents like Africa and Latin America combined. The architects of the global fossil fuel economy built their cities for a cold climate. Now, those same cities are being systematically dismantled by the very furnace they invented. Emitting carbon was only half the equation. They also actively dismantled the planet's natural defense systems, the dense green forests that act as carbon sinks to naturally pull that CO2 back out of the air. Through centuries of colonial expansion, European empires cut down immense natural forests across Asia, Africa, and the Americas. They cleared millions of acres to build railways, construct ships, and make room for profitable cash crops. They exported an economic model based entirely on endless consumption, sprawling concrete environments, and cheap fossil fuels. Tragically, the rest of the world is now copying that exact same blueprint. The wheel of nature has turned. Europe is now being literally baked alive under the atmospheric heat dome they spent centuries building at the expense of the rest of the globe. The failure of Europe's critical infrastructure is a precursor to a wider planetary destabilization. Look at Antarctica. The Thwaites Glacier, driven by warm ocean currents hollowing it out from underneath, is now dangerously close to collapsing. If it falls, global sea levels could rise by 2 feet, threatening to drown coastal cities from Mumbai to New York. The crisis shifts from rising oceans to disappearing fresh water. We are seeing a severe drop in vital European rivers, like the Rhine and Italy's Po River, where water levels have fallen so low that the ocean's salt water is actually flowing backward into the dried river deltas. The rivers have dried up so much that they have exposed the infamous hunger stones. These are ancient boulders carved by ancestors centuries ago to mark past catastrophic droughts. One of them simply reads, "If you see me, weep." Mother Nature is issuing a universal warning. The ecological bill for hundreds of years of global industrialization is finally past due. and it is destroying the vital waterways required for human survival. Since the carbon debt already trapped in our atmosphere will last for centuries, our immediate survival depends on rebuilding the natural carbon sinks that Europe once dismantled. This necessity is already critical in India, where our rivers and water systems are facing existential threats from this same global heating and local degradation. The most direct way to counter this is by restoring the ecology that regulates our water. This is why the Calvary Calling Initiative was launched. Spearheaded by Sadhguru and the Isha Foundation, this movement focuses on the massive reforestation required to revive drying rivers. This mission relies on the tireless work of volunteers to protect the millions of people who rely on these waters daily. Check the link in the description to join the campaign and help save the river. We cannot wait for the inventors of the global crisis to fix it. Actively saving our local ecology is the only way we will survive the turning wheel of climate change.